Guys, I want to put you in groups here in just a second, but before we do, I've talked to a few of you this week, and I just wanted to recognize like this particular project that you guys are working on. I know I've mentioned it before, but it's worth repeating. This is the hardest thing that I've done personally, like installing these sort of systems into bars and restaurants. And it's certainly the hardest thing to teach and to get you guys to do because, of course, you're already running a business and you're kind of adapting and building it on the fly and then installing, which, some people liken to changing a tire on the car when the car is moving. So I just want to recognize, like, I think you guys are all doing great work. It's not easy to do. I know for a fact, having done this hundreds of times, that if you can do this, you can do anything in the industry. And that the reason I'm so bullish on getting this in place is because it's without a doubt the most valuable thing you can do. And it doesn't happen overnight, but you're going to get it in place. It's going to take a while to work it through and you're going to tweak it. And then like incredible things start to happen in the business. So just for anyone who's like, feels it's a little bit difficult or it's a challenge when the business is up and running, it's normal. And I think you guys are all doing a great job. And especially during this trimester, I'm willing to lean in more than any other time. Like if anyone needs extra time or like you just can't get something, it's just not working, especially with some of the new technology tools. We're here. We're committed to getting this working at every single location. And with that, I wanted to just share with you guys. Well, first off, in case anyone has to go early, for those of you that are in the States, this is obviously one of the busiest weekends coming up to the long weekend, 4th of July. I will be here and Ali will be here on Thursday from 3 to 4 Eastern. I'm going to imagine a lot of you won't because as I said, it's one of the busiest days of the year. Um, but I'll be here for those of you that want to get some extra help with your project. You bring a problem, you bring the project itself, and we're going to help you do that. It'll be a benefit to anyone that joins. So we'll have like a working session on Thursday. And for those of you that are all systems go, totally understand that. As I said, talking to a few of you that have found it really difficult to wrap your head around this. I can tell you, some of you met Jack. He was here in Annapolis with us. Jack, is studying at an Ivy League university right now. He's a very smart guy. He found this incredibly difficult. Maybe not as much doing the work, but getting it to work, right? Because you're asking staff and often you're asking your leadership team to change their habits that they've done for years and been very successful at, right? Like this isn't like everyone's failing and we got to make a change or we're going to go broke. Like people can get on board with that really quick. It's like saying, hey, things are actually going pretty good. And a lot of your staff, especially your bartenders and servers, are like, man, it's busy here. Like, I don't know why we're looking to make these changes. So I just want to share with you guys. I dug this up in looking at Jack's case study for you this morning. So when I met Jack, he was in year 4 of his business at Dead Rabbit. They had just won, I think in year 2 or 3, best bar in the world, right? Pretty cool award. I don't know what it really means, except it's really good for PR. It offers new problems because everyone expects it now to be the best bar in the world. And now you're like 25 to 50% busier than you were when you won it. So it's a double-edged sword, but it's good for business. They did just over 6 million, 6.1 million, I think, that year. But they were stuck because they did 5.5 the year before. But he said, hey, it's a 5-year arc, and like, what do we got to do differently? But here's the interesting thing. Like Jack's a very data-driven guy. All of the feedback, especially the negative feedback that came in from guests, was all about the hospitality, right? Like when you do cocktails at that level, and I'd suggest even the level all of you are at today, like you are probably 20 to 60% above where your average customer can even wrap their head around. Like they don't even understand what half the ingredients are or the taste profile between fresh and juice that was juiced 5 days ago. Like you just don't have those customers. They might be 1% of your audience. But what they do care about is how they feel. What they do care about is standing in line for 15 minutes. What they do care about is a bartender, when they get to the front of the line, is glancing at her phone instead of at them, right? So the feedback he was getting wasn't about cocktails, it was about hospitality, which is totally normal. And it's the same for your business. Um, he made a change when he started working with me. And I said, well, what do you want to do? And he said, I want to focus on hospitality and staff development. I want to be the best employer in New York City. I said, what about cocktails? He goes, I handed that off to somebody, right? Like, think about it. I was running bars. When I had 400 staff, I had 15 staff that knew way more about cocktails than I did, right? You just can't keep up with cocktails when you're running a multi-million dollar business, nor was it my passion anymore. So he wanted to focus on that. And that's what we did. The results of that, this year, there's been a few years between, but he's constantly grown. He's doing 15 million this year. He still has awards, and his scalability is unbelievable. He could literally be open today in every city in North America. He has the money pouring in for it or available to him for it. But he wants to do it himself, one at a time, up to about 10, which is when he's going to hand it over to somebody else. So I raise that to say that, like, the work that you're doing right now is the work that he did to go from here to there. I would have been useless to him on the front of cocktails, even on scaling or even on optimizing the speed profile of those cocktails. Like, when I looked at what he was doing, he could have come and taught my clients work, right? So our work was exclusively on developing human beings and developing hospitality programs that his customers would actually love. And that's what we did. These were the takeaway notes I want to share with you that came from him. I asked him what he thought the most important thing was. And I really encourage you guys to think about this. He started with the end in mind. So his end wasn't the customer. He wanted to be the best employer in New York City. That's what he wanted to be. And keep in mind, the best employer of bartenders, cooks, barbacks, bussers, right? And that means giving people a runway to develop and become recognized as the best in your city, the best in your country, and the best in the world. He also got laser focus on what mattered to his customers. Not everything that mattered to him mattered to his customers, and vice versa. But you have to listen to what they're saying and appreciate the feedback. And then we realized really early on with his project, which was very high profile, his partner, Sean, by the way, did not want him working with me. And that created some dissension because Sean was his mentor. He's 15 years older than him. And he said, well, this Sean just knows things that you don't. So, but what we realized was that the leadership team was loyal to Sean, who was putting the handbrake on, right? And as goes your leadership team, so goes the business, right? Your business will just not outperform your leadership team for any length of time, even if you get the staff excited. Because when you go home at night and the leaders are there going, this is bullshit, we don't need to do this. Or even, their standards aren't high enough. Wherever their standards are is going to be the success of your program. So I want you guys to keep that in mind because you really need to get your whole team on board, starting with your leaders. And the hardest part for me in doing this work was parting companies with leaders who either displayed or told me, this doesn't really matter to me, right? It fucking mattered to me and I'm going to do it. And just like on a sports team, you can't have a line with one guy checked out. The line goes where he goes. Okay, so just a few bullet points here on each of the success factors. He kind of wrote this into a paper for one of his projects, and I've used it in presentations. So firstly, and this is kind of a checklist for each of you to think about right now. Are you crystal clear on one piece of paper or half a piece of paper? Your measurable objectives. Why are you doing this? How do you ensure alignment across your team? And then, you really got to focus on this guest experience, right? We got to make sure that we know exactly what we're doing here. All that fits on half a piece of paper, and it's a discussion with all your key people. Second thing that we really focused on was, we tripled down on the engagement from the leadership team. And what we did with them is we changed their schedule so that at the time, I'm thinking back, they had around 25 peak hours a week, which is a lot for any business, right? Most businesses have like 10 to 14 peak hours. I mean, when it's really heaving. He had 25 and that grew to 30 and then 40. Like, it was why they're packed on Mondays. But he moved the management to working during the peak hours, right? He wanted them on the floor demonstrating the behaviors, leading by example in that. Not forever, although he kept a lot of that in place because it just works. Now, again, you might have some of your leaders go, hey, I'm not doing that. It's up to you. You know, how do you want to bring this to life? How do you want your leaders to show what excellent looks like? And then he really held the team accountable for success. Every week we looked at the numbers. We had a 15-minute meeting every week and looked at the critical numbers there. All right, number 3 was the relevant and actionable content. So what happens with a lot of these programs is there's a lot of theory and a lot of perfect world bullshit, which your staff are going to sniff out really quickly. You need to take it out now and figure out a way to really build it into something in the future. But even on things that, like, you know, if you're, you know, a critical aspect is getting a bartender or a server or even a host to identify that a customer's pissed off, maybe on the way out the door, and have them judo flip that person back into like being on your side. That's very difficult to find that and throw that person in front of, you know, so that's something that has to be role played. But whatever you can do and put people in real life scenarios, that's where your program should start, right? Get really good at that stuff and then add things as you go. Because the last thing you want to do is defend your program that you're asking us to do things that we don't even have a chance to do, or how could you be saying I can't do it? So we just kind of remove that stuff and look to build it in later. All right, number 4, we're almost there. We wanted to make sure that we had a scalable and consistent delivery mechanism, right? We wanted to make sure that what we were doing was repeatable at all the stores. Now, you're going to have nuances at certain stores that are different layout and whatever else, but the core of your program, you want to say, like, is this an important thing to the survival of the company, to the thriving of the company? And then you want to make sure that you can maintain that. Number 5, on-the-job reinforcement. So my preferred formula, unless you start out from a really ugly place, like your staff are struggling, is the 80-20. 80% positive reinforcement. This is your leaders talking to your staff during the shift. 80% positive reinforcement, 20% negative reinforcement. The first time I received positive reinforcement as an adult, I was 18 years old, working at Hard Rock. Bar was 3 deep. I was sweating. My manager came up, put his hand on my back and said, hey, Sean, I don't know what you're doing, but those ladies over there on table 23 are raving about you. Keep it up. And he double pumped my back and walked away. I've never forgotten it. Never forgotten it. Right? So I know exactly what I did at that table. I went the extra mile. These elderly lady, I made them laugh. Even though we were busy, I just took a second, slowed down, connected with them and made them laugh, and then went by. I was clearing glasses off their table, right? It works. You know, the negative reinforcement's necessary sometimes. Someone really screws up, you've got to call it out. But, you know, the training sessions, the learning online, like staff are like, fuck, when does this end? It's getting that positive reinforcement on the material that they're learning. It's really important. Number 6, when you lay out this program, and we're going to have this done in the next couple of weeks, when you lay out your program, you've got to leave enough time to practice and get some feedback. You know, it's not like everyone works 5 shifts a week and people are on holidays and whatever else. You got to give it time so that there's, you know, enough time in your program for people to demonstrate competency. Right? It's frustrating. You put people under pressure when, you know, I was in university exams. I wasn't working. Now I've got 3 shifts to do this stuff. Am I going to lose my job? Right? We just got to give it a bit of room to breathe and make sure that it's fair and that people have time. You've also got to make sure for your slow learners, people like me, you got to make sure that they have time. Right? Sometimes I've had to give people 50% more time, 100% more time. And I did, and I invested in them. They became my best people. You got to make that decision, but, you know, just got to make sure you're doing that. And I think this is the final one we had written in here. You know, if for me, I became a completely metric driven business, right? The human aspect, I like people like me, but we've got the numbers and we've got to manage to the numbers. We've got to hit these certain numbers on when we go through. evaluations, the guest feedback, the mystery shopper feedback, management assessment. Your manager should have the respect of your team and to say, hey, listen, you're pretty good at this, but by comparison to your peers, this is a tough discussion to have. We have 10 bartenders here, and you're pretty good at this, but you're like number 6. And the top 2 people are these people right here. And it's important that people know where they stand and they'll look to those people and what are they doing differently than me? That's how I learned. Anyone who's played sports knows that's how it works in sports. Anyone who's been in a formal school system, who's at the top of the class. You know who the valedictorians are. You know who's asked to come in at lunchtime and rewrite the paper, right? It's not a secret. It's a meritocracy that you're working people through, unless it's not. And then we're all cool and kumbaya, and the standard just keeps dropping. So this was the tough part for some of Jack's leaders, is really managing towards the data. But once they did, and once they gave people the feedback on what they need to do to improve, everyone skyrocketed through the business. Oh, there was one last one here. The staff buy-in and engagement. You can't demand somebody accept something. They say buy-in. I think the reverse of that is you've got to sell it, right? I really think it's my job as a company leader, when there's a new initiative, a new program, I got to sell it to people. And if I can't sell it to people, either I got to leave or they got to leave, right? Like you're selling to someone that, hey, things are going to change. It's going to become a little bit awkward for you sometimes. You got to learn something new. We're going to test you in the field, right? And for me, I've always, back to my sporting days, I've always been on elite teams and played in elite leagues. And I'd rather be the worst team in an elite league than the best team in a shit league. So I let people know that this is what we're doing. I want you to come along with me. I'm going to invest in you, right? Like, you're here for a reason, and we all got to get to the next level. And me as a leader, especially. And I want you to keep me accountable, keep me on my toes, and let's go. We're going to do this, and we're going to wind up here. Some people want to win an award. Some people want to see their numbers rise. My promise to my people is, I said, if you stay with me 2 or 3 years, you make it through this program, the whole business is going to surge, and this is going to matter for your career, right? You're going to see how it's done. You're going to play your part in it. You're going to get your numbers, and it'll matter when you leave here and go somewhere else. And that for the people I was hiring was enough. Add to that, you're going to make more money than everyone else. We're going to have more opportunities. We're going to be busier on Tuesdays than a lot of people are on Thursdays or Fridays, right? You got to find your reasons, whatever they are, but don't think for a second you can just mandate change. You have to sell it in. That's super important. A lot of people skip it. So I'm going to leave it there for a second. What I'm going to do, or Ali's going to pull you guys into groups. I want you guys just to take a second and reflect on this process, particularly one thing that your team's doing well at, or maybe something you've been surprised at that people have come along. And the second thing is one challenge that you heard with Jack's story, with our call last week. I want you to just kind of identify a challenge that you've got or concern that you've got, and a best practice. Everyone's going to have 2 minutes. So you spend 1 minute on your challenge, 1 minute on best, and then we're going to come back on. Ready to go, Ali?
Yep.
All right, here we go. How do we go, guys? I just want to check in on kind of go around the horn quickly here and see where you guys are stuck or where we can help. And then before we wrap today, I'm going to give you guys just an outline for like a 2-page plan to fill in the details. And as we go through this, if you want to bounce this back and forth with Ali and I, we can help plug in any gaps that come up. But maybe we'll kick off with Nicole. What you stuck anywhere? You need some help?
I would say the thing that our group was talking about the most was just making sure all the managers are, setting those standards and expecting the same thing across the board, across all of our locations. We don't want to cut corners in any way, and just making sure everybody's on the same page.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
What I've seen over the years is that some venues have people that are great at admin. They're the glue that hold the place together. They do all that, but they're not, they've never been expected to be public facing, to be demonstrating excellence when it comes to hospitality. This is a call for you guys to make, and I'm not saying anyone should get fired because of what they can't do or haven't been expected to do in the past. But it should be clear as to who we're looking to out on the floor, right? Like
Mhm.
I use myself as an example. I got to a point where I was, not effective behind the bar or not up to speed on the new POS system at the front door, but I was able to demonstrate hospitality. I was able to be humble, to be kind, to be funny, to do all those sorts of things. And the people that are kind of behind the scenes are, might remain behind the scenes, but it's getting the people that, you want to represent your venue, working some of those hours during peak hours. And I think I'd mentioned to you guys, like we switched over to just getting our team more active during peak hours. And the way we were able to do that is we systematized the business. We were able to hand over a lot more to our younger staff that our senior team didn't need to do anymore. So it's not an easy switch, and I understand that it's tricky, but figuring out who's who is important. What about you, Julius?
Yeah, I was in the same group as Nicole and absolutely worked together. And I was mentioning, so far being pleased with the communication that we're starting to get back from staff members via server reports and their feedbacks. We can see that it's actually imparting on them. Whether they're talking about forward acronyms and information that they're extracting from guests. This past weekend I ran a loop through the restaurant where we'd have hosts go to extract info, relay to server, server to manager, then manager back to table to kind of create that full closed loop experience for the guests that, ultimately makes them feeling like the star of the show, right? Because everyone kind of knows a little bit about you, whether it's special occasion or, kid that just came from a ball game, won the game, whatever, just trying to
Right.
get that going. And then yeah, that was again, as Nicole spoke to, making sure that everyone on the management level is pushing this information down consistently. We reformatted our Wednesday, Friday group calls so that store managers now lead with where it's what was this week's hospitality focus, what were the results, what were the challenges, and then goes into, metrics, events, and everything from there.
That's great, man. That's great. And yeah, that multi touch, when it's appropriate. If people on a first date fawning over each other, we're not going to lean in there. But one of my lead guys in Sydney, he always talked about tic-tac-toe. If over the course of 2 hours, like three people in the organization touch you, and you can tell it's a connected experience, it's valuable. So very cool. Felix.
Hey, so right now our biggest struggle is to get the next few months kind of covered because I've got people leaving and end of August, beginning of September, we got lots of functions and events. So either if we manage to refill with new people, which are a good match and not just someone who comes along because we don't want to employ just anyone now. We want to look for the real right people or whether it be like external solutions for the meantime. That will be kind of you know a little bit of a challenge, but
Yeah. Well,
we get through it.
I feel for you during this time, but more than 25 times I took over properties, 8 of them for myself and others for others. And I always say I never fired anybody, but I freed up a lot of futures. I sent people back to the cannery that they should have been working at or wherever, lumberjack by themselves. They didn't have any people skills. And so we had 80 to 100% of the staff leave, and I had to take on a business and open it with brand new people, according to this, and do it on the fly. And I got to tell you, I'm not going to say I prefer to do it that way, but in many ways it was easier, right? Than having people holding on to the old ways sometimes and whatever else. And the new staff looking at the old staff going, oh, I can see what he's doing. It's not what he's asking him to do. And he's still here. So it's tough, but you'll get there, man. Turn over a few and get a few stars and you're there. How about you, Dan?
Everything's been going really well for us so far. I think we've got traction on a lot of things. We got a lot of moving parts. I think the biggest challenge we're running into is some of the senior staff, and not even senior staff, because some of the places like Diablo are newer. But when Julius is talking about the three steps and people touching, we have people that are saying like, "Oh, I forgot to check in," or "I didn't fucking forget." They're just choosing not to do it. So
Right.
they're going to be getting new jobs.
Right. Yeah. And I liked your your tie-in with the belts as well, Dan. I think that's something these guys can relate to, especially, working for somebody with your background. And for me, the idea, a lot of people have a hard time with the meritocracy. And I honestly, I just think it's fair, right? If you're not going to put me on Friday, Saturday night, and it's a difference of me earning 1,000 a week or earning $1,400 a week, I just want you to tell me why. Just tell me what I can do to improve. And you guys have probably had the same experience as me. Like the people that got to work the best shifts had the best relationship with the manager, or they've just been there the longest. And I'm like, I can't fix that. I've been in the industry a while, but I can't pretend I've been here any longer than I am. So I think that's a great step forward. Very cool. Kai.
Hello. Look, sort of things that we're struggling with. Each venue's got its own little things that ticking on, but overall, for myself personally, it's rolling out this mystery shopper, which I touched base, and the Monday call was great. Ali's little package of templates is amazing, so that is really putting leaps and hurdles to jump over for us. So yeah, it's really great putting that together, and yeah, stoked on getting that one. But yeah, I think sort of what you touched on earlier, having your key managers in peak periods on the busiest nights is something that we definitely need to look at on our rostering. We probably leave them a little bit too autonomous on some of the rostering sometimes.
Yeah.
Mainly myself, sort of not pulling them up because you don't want to feel like you're sort of micromanaging them. But I think there's times when it actually hurts the business.
Right. Right. The leadership on the floor during peak hours, maybe some managers think that I've earned, not being there or having to do that fast-paced work anymore. But I took my daughter out to lunch earlier this week, and they had a young girl, a busser, like my daughter's age, 15, 16, 17 years old. And she went over to a table and, they're still eating, but she took about half of the dirty dishes and clutter away that was on the table. Like that's all it is clear to me. No one's ever showed her how to clear a table before. Now you can't fix that in the middle of the shift, but what happened next was she was walking over the next table. The manager walked in front of her, cleared everything while she engaged the table. And I just saw the young girl go, "Oh, fuck, that's how you do it." Right? Like now you're doing twice the work and you're engaging the table while you're there. And they also needed another Coke or whatever was going on. She relayed that to the server, took an order, cleared the table, got to know people. And I just saw like a young girl go, okay, there's several levels above where I'm at. Yeah. Good. Johnny from the Arctic.
Well, we were speaking in our group. I think the trouble now, which we're seeing with the third venue since March, when we were rolling something out, when it was like me, Kai, and Glenn all in the one venue, it just happened. Instant buy-in, instant engagement from the staff.
Yeah.
And when we got the two venues, it was a similar process, but it was just a bit slower. So we'd roll it out at Cotton Tree and then roll it out at Kings, but we'd get the same result, just a little bit slower. And now we're relying on the team to be rolling this stuff out, and you can see the instant inconsistencies. You get buy-in from others, and you get flat out no buy-in from others, which surprise you. And I'm just trying to work out what actually drives them or motivates them, and how long do you tolerate it for?
Yeah. With that, Johnny, I expanded fast, and my accountant would argue too fast. But when it came to the staff, I was younger and I was hurt that people were not cheering against me, but fuck, what do you expect? And when I went back, well, actually they called an intervention, my first 3 properties, and they were a really tight group. And 2 things happened. One, I had a problem child. I had a venue that, my fucking eyes were bigger than, than the opportunity. And it took a lot more work than I thought. And they were pissed that I'm spending money on this dog rather than with them. And then secondly, they're like, kind of, where does this end? And I realized, holy shit, these guys don't know my business plan, right? Like I'm on plan and these people, think that I'm randomly picking up multi-million-dollar properties. Like, no, this is the plan, but I just hadn't brought them in. And not only that, I hadn't told them how they could grow inside that plan or not, right? That was a hard discussion. I had people like at AGM that I'm like, you're just not GM material in my group. And maybe you want to spend a couple more years and develop, and them telling me they've got 5 offers down the road. And I'm like, okay, well, that sounds like that's good for your career. But this is what's good for my career. And I realized like having that quarterly open door, all staff come in, I talk about where we're at as an organization, issues with stores that we had, top performers, people that we had going on. And here's where we're looking 3-5 years down the track. And I said, now's the time. No fucking gossip here. Don't jump me on the way to my car unless it's really personal. Now talk to me about it. Tell me how you feel. And the first few were pretty edgy. And then it was like, this is who we are. People left, right? They're like, okay, I didn't realize this guy. I thought we were just going to be this cool group of 4 venues. And I'm like, no, that's not why I'm here. Right. So I'm just sharing my own experience because, in hindsight, I thought I had talked to people about it, but apparently not all the right people at the right time.
Yeah, it's similar. Like I think it's really clear at the venue manager, head chef, sous chef, sort of assistant manager role, like that first layer of store management. I think, really understand the clear vision for us, but I don't think it rolls out fully to the whole team.
Right. Yeah.
So that's a point with it.
One of the terms that they use, like these shiny pennies that I had, these new properties. Like, you think that's a fucking shiny penny? That is a pain in my ass down the road. I don't see my kids because of that fucking shiny penny. Like, you think I'm hanging there because it's new and cool? If I wanted to be somewhere new and cool, I'd be at the place that's working, right? Like my job is jumping on grenades that I pull the pin out of. So I just had to communicate better. Dustin.
We chatted in the group about some of the struggles that were very common for us were in our pace and in our style of restaurant where we don't take reservations all the time. The big thing that stuck out for us is trying to find a way to get that information from guests when it's not just blatantly obvious. If someone comes in with a balloon that says happy birthday, that's pretty clear. Someone comes in with a bouquet of flowers, it's pretty clear. But how do you, when you can sense something's going on, how do you teach the team to elude, like just pull that information out and coax that information out? And then moreover, what do you do with it once you have it? So we've been toying around, and I can't remember if it was in this group or where it came from, but we were toying around with the idea of if we know there's someone's birthday, but we didn't know they were coming in, how do we pull them away to the bar? Say, hey, the bartender wants to chat with you for a second. Can we swap out a menu with a card? What are some little things that we can do? But the other thing we talked about that comes up for us in a smaller market is some of these people have never had this experience before. Like they know how to take care of you and make you feel warm and fuzzy. But how do we blow the doors off? And they've never had that experience. So that's a struggle that we have, is trying to figure out a way to teach people to give an experience that they may have never had themselves. So that's where we're kind of sitting, is those two things. One, getting the information up front. What can the host be doing differently without, and maybe it is as simple as just saying, like, why are you here? And then once we have that information, what do we do with it?
Yeah. Okay. So two things on that, Dustin. I've got slated for an upcoming Thursday, like this specialty toolbox for events, but it also has like the diagnostic in there. And just a abbreviated version of it. This gentleman that worked for me was just like, he taught me as much about hospitality as anyone I've ever worked with, including some of these masters in London. I was employed as a host. He started as a busser with me. He was just a fucking A++ human being. And he just brought that to work with him and showed us how to do it. So he was the one that started teaching us and talking to us about energy. Someone would come in and it'd be like, rating on from 1 to 10. But then he talked about special energy, right? And that could be sadness and it could be extreme happiness. So people are vibrating a little bit differently. And what he would do, and I can tell you, not everyone even got around or was able, fully comfortable doing this. But if he'd ask, he'd say, "Hey, I sense there's something, is there something special going on today or something?" And people would tell him. Almost always they would tell him. But what he would do is, I don't know how he would choose the person he would ask. He always talked about like the person in charge, the person holding the rudder, right, of that experience between two people or four people. But he would talk to the person with the rudder on the way to the table and say, "Is there anything I can do to make the next 2 hours of your life more special?" Right? And not always, maybe 50% of the time, someone would say something. Said, "She loves X. He loves Y. A quieter table would be better." We've had people say, "We're here to talk about our divorce." A table away from everybody would be nice. Right? So like having the courage to ask that question. I can tell you the first few times I did it, I thought, fuck, what are they going to say? But it's usually a thoughtful answer or just, "No, we're good. We're good. Thank you very much for asking." Right? On the point about the experience, we used to talk to our staff about, I would be the worst Ferrari salesman in the world. I just don't really appreciate cars. I have friends that do. I'm also not built for a Ferrari. They're built for 5'8", 150-pound Italian men. But if we were delivering a level of hospitality, we had one place, and I don't even want to say it was nice or fancy, but it was nicer than our other places. And when we were looking to hire people who had only worked at like dive bars and pubs and whatever else, we would, in the induction process, if we thought they were going to make it with us, I would buy them and a partner dinner at a place that we were looking to emulate. I'd say, "I want you to go there. Now that you've been with us, you've seen what we're doing here. And then I want you to come in and tell me what you rate them out of 10 and what you rate us out of 10. Right? And everyone with the places I sent them to could appreciate the delta. Right? They're like, "Oh, okay. Oh, so you want us to do this and this?" No, I don't want you to do those two things, but I want you to do these three things. Right? It's how you're making people feel. It's the timing. It's your posture. It's matching your voice with their voice. Right? It's going like 10% of your own comfort zone to be kind to somebody. And once they go there and feel it, they have a much better chance of delivering it, I find. Brian and Adrian. Adrian, how about you? I haven't seen you for a little while. Or you're always just off camera.
Hello, how are you?
I'm great. How you doing?
I don't know. We've had some wins and some struggles. So we did awesome with our whole hiring platform this year. We had like 5 times as many resumes, and we had such great people that we hired. The energy and like just the freshness in the restaurants is really noticeable. We have like these great people, they're ready to work, they're happy to be here, which was awesome. And then we really did a good job with our like our new training packets and our onboarding and like using like in-house training and then like reinforcing it with some technology and the AI videos and being like, "Hey, this is what you should have learned on day 1 and day 2." And then at certain pieces of it, it would require a check off of a manager being like, "Okay, like we're going to go over this in a little bit more detail and I'll let you go on to the next piece." And as we started to see more and more people hit the floor and finish their training, we started to realize that our managers got overwhelmed and just was like, "All right, you did 3 days instead of 5. That's great." And then at the pre-shifts, we're learning that they don't know shit.
Right. Okay.
So like their energy is there, their personalities are there, and like our guests are noticing like the happy faces. But if if they know that we're serving Mexican food, I guess it's a win at this point. We're like, "What the fuck is going on?"
I had a girl the other night, super nice. She's like, I'm like, "Hey, what's going on with table? How's your section? What's going on with table 5?" She's like, "Oh, it's actually my family." I'm like, "Oh shit, that's your family?" She's like, 6 of them. She's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Have they ever been here before?" She's like, "No." I'm like, "Cool." I'm like, "It looks like they're finishing up. What do we do for them?" Just assuming the manager knew and blah, blah, blah. She's like, "What do you mean? Like, you didn't send them any love? Did we add anything? I'm going to go to the table, but I just want to know what we did." She's like, "I didn't know we were allowed to do anything." I'm like, we have a comp screen for strangers, let alone your family. Those are VIPs. Like, let's fucking hook up. I'm like, you did nothing? She's like, no. I'm like, do they have time for dessert? I'm like, Jesus. But anyway, so the message 225 staff, like, hey, remember, like, your families are VIPs, your friends are VIPs. Like, this is the shit we do. Like, if we're not doing that for people we know, god damn, like, what are we doing for the school tours?
That they should know that they have it, so we're like ready to kill our managers. And I mean, I get it, they're overwhelmed. We've like probably doubled or tripled our staff in the last month, so it is
Yeah.
a lot of work. But like, so we're now like basically now our focus is our managers now, being like, you have to do this, you have to make this work. So we're sitting in like all the pre-shifts now, and like we're walking, like literally just walking the floor, or like sitting down and having a drink at one of the tables in the dining room and just watching it, and then correcting them on the moment, in the moment, nicely, but like, hey, you could have done this better, or what have you, because we just have so many new all this new blood on the floor, and they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's okay. So you guys have a similar challenge where you've got, you know, new folks coming in, turning over. They I was just thinking about like the courseware, some of the stuff that you guys have done that's really cool, and a course like on your inner circle, right? How you build it, who's involved in it, you know, what right or what options you have in doing that on the floor. And, you know, for me alone, the fact that Brian was there, you know, I said to my team, if your neighbors or your staff or anyone ever came in and I was on the property, or any of the leadership teams here and you didn't introduce us, you just have to let us know why. Like if you're embarrassed, you think I'm going to embarrass you or whatever else. But I said that's that's how you build a restaurant, right? We build a core group of 500, and not doing that actually hurts us, right? I want to know your family, I want to know your friends, and all of that. The management team, the pressure, and all of that. This is where breaking it up into that passport scenario where you've got those 6 or 8 things that you really need people to know before it gets to the manager, and say, hey, you know, you're going to work with David, who's really good at this. You're going to talk about it, work through it. He's going to watch you do it. And then once David signs off, then it goes to the management team. And all they have to do is sit down and talk and have a discussion with you and make sure that you know where you're at. So, and I know it's hard when you're turning people over and everything else, but even having 1 or 2 captains on the floor that can help you just, you know, hey, we're going to buy a staff meal, we're going to do this or that, and we need your help just getting these people, because, you know, you can teach them, but they need to talk to someone about it. And it's way more powerful to talk to a peer to say, is this bullshit or do we really do this? Because that's what I would say to somebody. I'd say, I saw the video, but does anyone really do that? And they go, yeah, like Brian's like a bit of a nut. If you don't do it and he's here, he's going to be offended that you didn't introduce him. Oh, okay. All right. That's how it works here then. Right? It only is that way when someone who works there tells you it's that way.
I guess the win out of that situation was I messaged the entire staff reminding them what we do, and we'll make reservations. If you have anyone important coming to town, here's my cell number. Text me, I'll make the reservation. Like, you want to know. And I got a text last night, of course, at midnight, because staff don't give a fuck. But anyway, military sisters coming to town. Can I hook them up? What can you buy them a drink at this card at the other restaurant? Blah, blah, blah. So I set that all up. So at least one person took it to heart. So that's good.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. And I said Brian because the name was on the screen, but that's Scott speaking there. So
Brian's here.
And Brian's there too. I can see Brian's elbow.
Yeah.
He's got great elbow, so I gotta say.
Thanks.
Say perfect. All right, Sam.
I said one of our challenges currently that I think we're in the process of now correcting was leaving time for like practice and feedback. So when I used to manage on the floor, we would do mock serving trials. So we would, you know, either work off of a short script or just kind of throw all the curveballs at them just to make sure that they were capable of handling kind of any scenario. Or how to work through it. And that's something that we really stopped doing, I think, in our training program. And with that, I think we run into more, you know, well, obviously we run into more issues down the road because they're not ready for those random things that come flying at them. But I think because we've been in such a hurry or rush to get people on the floor that, you know, our trainers are just immediately assuming that just because they went down the list of everything in our like induction program that they already understand it or that there isn't like more to it. So, we're gonna reinstate our mock surveying and spend more time on really kind of trying to trip them up so that they have more preparedness during their like table presence.
Okay. Yeah, great. And it's a process, right? You put them through there, put them on the table, give them the coaching as they go. And as I say, it's a reinforcement that, really makes people come to life, right? It's like,
Yeah.
I'm doing this work and now I'm recognized in public. And there's a lot of people in the industry that are like me that weren't, their teacher wasn't celebrating them out loud in front of the class. So suddenly they're getting some of that in a field where they're comfortable. All right, that's great. We got two minutes here. I want to just show you guys something before, and then I'm going to stay on the line if anyone has further questions. Let me pull this up as easy as it is for me. Here we go. No, this one. Entire screen here. And you see that, Ali?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. All right. So you guys are going to find this in the school drive. It's also in the chat window here. I just want to run through it real quick. So the best business plans or project plans that I've ever worked towards have been 2 pages or less, right? No one wants to read 10 pages. These are just placeholder text here. And this is something that, depending on what you're going to share with your leadership team, my project plans were up on the board for everyone. It was only 2 pages. Everyone knew what it was, if it worked, why it worked, launch dates, when it was going, phase rollouts. We're going to do this between these days. Again, this is all just placeholder here, but like self-paced online might be a quarter of the program. Live all hands could be a part of it, whatever your formula breakdown is. On the job coaching, you've got some peer-to-peer shadowing. You select your metrics so they know, and this might require some description because some of these are just acronyms or shorthand. So say, hey guys, this is how we're going to measure the program. And after 30 days, I want to see us here, 60 days here, 100 days, I want to see us over here. Tools and tech, this is where everything lives. These are the tools that we use. Roles and responsibilities. So we want to name names here. It's the person that owns it. These are our captains, so on and so forth. Feedback and adjustment loops. This is how you're going to know what's up, what's going on. And then script kickoff. Mine always ended too with, hey, I know this seems like a lot. I want to be the best we can be. And the final thing it said was that anyone who's interested in getting involved in this project or future projects to play a bigger role, I'd love to have you on board and I'll make it worth your while, sort of thing. And I was always surprised. People I didn't think would sign up, people I thought might sign up didn't, whatever. It's where they're at in their life and what time they have. But once they started seeing a successful project, that becomes part of someone's resume. And then the next project, we have more and more people sign up for these things. And my typical project on these big ones like this, we would have up to a dozen people involved, right? There'd be a lot of people because a lot of things. I have someone who's good with tech, someone who's good at shooting a little bit of video for us, somebody who's good at managing the schedule. Everyone did a little bit and it all came together. We reported on a Google Doc, red, yellow, green. Your work was done or it wasn't. And we were there. So that'll be up there. I just thought it'd help you guys to keep organized. And with that, it's 4 o'clock here Eastern. But I'm going to stay on the line if anyone's got any questions. And remember, Thursday, I think a lot of the American operators will be a busy day, but we'll be here as well. And we can really drill down if someone wants to go deep on something they're working on. And Ali and I'll help you bring it to life.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. We're jumping off into pre-meals, so thanks today. Man. And you probably won't be on Thursday. We're rocking and rolling finally. So
yeah. Okay, we'll see you guys on Tuesday
next week.
Have a great long weekend. Cool. Any questions, guys? Ideas you
Quick
want
on the rollout, the 100-day rollout plan. So you've got that ChatGPT prompt at the end of it. Are we answering all those questions that follow the prompt?
Oh, so Ali, you want to talk about that? Because you've got a separate tab there.
Yeah. So the one that you could see on the first tab that says sample, that one we actually filled in the questions. So if you wanted to make it personalized for you, you would want to go to the second tab, which is ChatGPT prompt, and then go down and fill in those questions and then copy and paste the whole thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to add that. Good question.
Sean and Allie, is there any way for each call to get the slides that you're using posted up? Because I try to screenshot stuff, but I find myself trying to think back on stuff, and then I go back in school and can't find them.
Absolutely. We can put them up. Where do you put them, Ali, in school?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, we'll throw them up.
That'd be great.
You can touch up my spelling.
So I will say that one thing I do is I take the transcripts for all these calls and I turn into action items in chat, which is super, super helpful. I don't know if anyone else is doing that.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, it's a whole new world now, isn't it? With that, like,
yeah, it's unreal. Because it'll always give me like the top 5, 10 highlights, valuable for everyone that I'm in. But if I miss one, for sure, it's amazing.
A friend of mine wrote a prompt. I just asked him to send it before this call, but he's an investor in a company that he attends a week. No, not every week. Every other week he attends a meeting. It's an hour, and he says it's the most painful hour of his life. And so he's been tracking them with ChatGPT, and he asked, like, what's going on here? And basically, like, tell me, and then I'll communicate to them, sort of thing. And he's like, well, you got this one guy that keeps saying every week he's going to do the fucking same thing. He never does anything. This guy here uses 3 times more words than anyone needs to say. They basically just broke down, like, this is just a highly ineffective meeting. So he's typing it up and he's going to send it out to them to go, listen, this is it's probably a longer email or a 15-minute phone call, but we somehow turned it into a 1-hour monster. And it kind of picked on individuals in the thing, their shortcomings. That's what he asked it to do, find out who the weaker contributors are. If he does send it to me, I'll put it up in school. He's really good at writing these prompts.
Yeah, I'm just looking in the chat and I'm surprised. I've got a note taker. I don't even know how I did that, but yeah, apparently I've got a note taker. I must have clicked on something and I'm like, oh yeah, cool. All right.
Yeah.
Get those notes.
Your note,
Ali, how do I do that?
Your note taker arrives 7 or 8 minutes before you do, Kai. So, and we were joking that it's going to have wood paneling in the back, and a pen.
Mate, I was like, who's that? I've got a note taker. Oh, okay, cool. Nice. Ali, what did you click on? Or what did I click on?
It's in case you oversleep.
Yeah. You see how advanced he is, Johnny? The guy's got tools he doesn't even know about.
I'm so proud of him. I knew he was going to make it, and now he's got his own PA. Like, look at him fly.
And look at Johnny and Kai side by side. Johnny's in 2025, Kai's in 1975. How is this like time travel? It's amazing.
It's the weird time zones in Australia.
That's right. He's straddling. What else you got, guys? Anything going on you want to talk about?
I think it's still a similar boat. I feel like we've got about 5 or 6 big things on the go, but nothing's actually rolled out yet.
Right.
But I feel like we're about 2 weeks away from a lot happening.
Okay.
There's been little wins, like the cards Kai put together, little QR codes, just follow-ups, letting staff know that it's just internal feedback. We want to be better. And there's the NPS on there. So that got rolled out, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's just probably getting more staff to buy into that.
Yeah. Those QR codes, obviously I'm not very tech savvy. So, when it first started happening, I was like, building these databases. And then I was at a friend's venue one night and he said, we were just about to sit down for lunch. And he said to the to the manager, how many bookings have we got tonight? It was like a Tuesday or Wednesday night. And he goes, we've only got 40 booked for tonight. And the manager goes, don't worry, I'm going to do something about that. And I thought he was joking. And he comes back, we finish our lunch and he comes over and I said, what does he mean by that? What was he going to do? And he goes, oh, he's been building this database. So I said, how many have you got now? So it's only been an hour or 75 minutes. I said, how many have you got now? And they were at 85. Right. And I'm like, well, what did you say? And he goes, well, we just offered a little something, you know, if you're going to come, you're in our inner circle. You know, it's tonight. If you're thinking about eating out tonight, goes. And I don't know if it's a glass of wine. It wasn't much. It was a very small incentive to double their bookings on a weeknight. And I'm like, fuck, this is a beautiful world we live in.
And I don't think we're utilizing our database well enough. Like we send monthly EDMs, sort of keeping them in the loop as to what's happening or what we got going on. That's it. The first round of NPS scores we got back. We got 100 and something from the first EDM.
Yeah.
But it's a database of like 6,000 and we don't use it to increase bookings.
Right. Yeah.
Like we've never ventured down that path. So that's worth doing something about.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a segregation too of those databases. Like I see clients that use it really well. Like they know, you know, 6 or 8 things about that particular bracket of people. Like that, you know, they typically come in weeknights. They, you know, when we have sports on, they, you know, they're a happy hour crowd. They drink wine. They do this, they do that. And you put together promos that target those groups and away you go. The other thing that really adds to the database, like Jack does it pretty well. I'm in one of his early databases, and he asks his customers questions. Like he'll ask things like, you know, it seems from my data, and tell me if I'm wrong, that you're likely to come here on a weeknight. You know, assuming you're here for a pint of Guinness or bite to eat or whatever. If you don't come here, where do you go? You know, where's your other spot, your next favorite spot on place? And when people are asked questions that take real input, not just yes or no, you know, he gets this and starts to compile back, and he'll find the common denominator. He'll go himself typically to that venue on a weeknight, and he'll sit there for 2 hours, and he'll come out of there going, oh yeah, there's one thing they do way better than us, or 2 things. You know, so looking at those things and then inviting people like your live music crowd, when you create what I want to call like authentic scarcity, right? Like not trying to say, oh, if you don't buy today, you're not going to be able to get a ticket. But he'll say, hey, they do a lot of really good live music at Jack's place, and they don't sell tickets for it. They get bands that play like in front of 8,000 people, but he just wants to have this music program coming. But he'll say, if you book dinner now, we're going to release to the public tomorrow and tell them that this is happening. So there's no price other than you booking in to have dinner. He will fucking sell that restaurant out before he even announces the music act that's coming. So he just builds this relationship of trust with his audience, and he talks to them certain groups every week, other groups every fortnight, other groups every month, depending on the deal.
Yeah. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, it's worth getting somebody on too that can start to look at the data, right? Like when people open, you know, who replies, you know, the information they give you, what do you do with it? It's like having someone on it who, you know, I would say I want to be able to press the fucking button and fill up my venue on a Wednesday night. Like that's the ideal scenario.
Yeah.
And get people who haven't been back for 2 months, 3 months, like who's out there running up those sheep, right? Like a couple new places open, you were always 10 minutes further away, but you know, Johnny invites me back in, I'm probably going to come.
Yeah. We did have a couple of wins last week. We kicked off the podcast on Friday.
Oh, cool.
And so we did 2 episodes. It'll be 8 episodes. So we got filming for episode 3, 4 this Friday. But we had Sunrise come to King's Beach Bar, which is like our national morning news.
Okay.
From like, what was it, like 5:30 till 8:30 they air in the mornings here. And they did a live broadcast from our restaurant.
Okay.
Which was pretty cool. Which was like all free marketing.
Yeah.
we found out about a few days earlier.
And how did that come about? Them coming in the first place?
There's a Visit Queensland and Visit Sunshine Coast is like a government funded tourism industry sort of platform. And Visit Sunshine Coast actually paid for Channel 7 to come out and do that live broadcast. So they were trying to promote the Sunshine Coast and Kings Beach.
Yeah.
And reached out to us to actually film it in front of Kings Beach Bar.
Nice.
Yeah.
I asked because the first time I think it was like just chance that someone booked, TV station booked and shot at one of my restaurants. And then they wrote to me afterwards, the producer wrote and said, hey, we've shot a lot of restaurants, but fuck, your team were so nice, made it easy. They got there early, put pylons down for parking, like we could never get parking and whatever else. And I asked if I could use that, could share with other people. We took the footage and the note and sent it around to all the TV stations. We started getting TV stations through all the time. They're always looking for spots. You know, so just having that person that's going to reach out to every single place and then do it every 6 months because they turn over, they forget. Yeah.
And they're always chasing stories or something else to do as well. So it's a win-win. Like you're getting your marketing, but they're getting a story.
Well,
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. We had written up by, I don't know, 5 or 7 different big news outlets, our peer-to-peer program that sent 2 people, like the person that won and their partner or their friend, anywhere that Star Alliance flies in the world, extra week's holiday, $2,000 in cash for winning and they're like, what? A restaurant, you know? And as you say, people are always looking for content.
Yeah.
Right. It's a good story. And then I said, well, what other story? We started submitting stories all the time. If we had someone who ran the gamut that started like busser or dishwasher and made it up into senior management, AGM or GM, we'd send that story in. I just wanted that person to be celebrated. So any little thing, we had a customer that told us that they had been 100 visits to our restaurant. It was their place and everything. Sent that in, and fuck, we got stories all the time. I just had a girl who shipped that shit around.
Yeah, that's an epic idea.
Yeah, low cost and high return. Now your camera's getting foggy, Kai. What's going on in there? Is it a sauna? Have you got the heat and the steam on, or now the light's going? What the hell is going on?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Yeah, I just saw that. It keeps changing.
like
It's like, I don't know whether it's like fogging up down here because I've got the heater on and I'm trying to defrost in here.
It's like, do you ever see the Blair Witch Project? There's a little bit of that going on too with all the different lighting and well, look at that. Is there no windows in there? Is there no windows in the whole place? How would you get out?
Yeah, no. I've got all the
He
blinds.
doesn't.
I don't. I just come home and lock myself in.
It's like he's running from the law. He's hiding out.
He just sits there in quiet with his demons.
Yeah. Speaking of darkness, it's getting pretty fucking dark here. We've got a thunderstorm coming in. I gotta get my pool robot in at some point. Any other questions, guys, before we jump? Everyone's good?
Great.
All right.
Today, guys. Energy was great.
Good, man. And we'll get we'll drop the slides up up there as well.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see some of you on Thursday and the rest on Tuesday.
Have a great holiday weekend, guys.
Yeah. Have a great 4th, guys. Take care.
Cheers, guys.